With more than 4 years of hard-won sobriety, Ryan Penley has transformed his life's adversities into valuable lessons for those still struggling with addiction. There were a couple of years Ryan begged for it to be over. His mother had sent him to jail and accused him of trying to murder her. Ryan was homeless. Now, looking back, he realizes he was creating a testimony. But at the time, he just wanted out and his life to be over. Then he woke up out of a coma and wow, what a transformation. Today, Ryan is going to share his story of how he came from the pit to a life that is unimaginably blessed, exceeding even his own expectations.
Have you ever felt like giving up, quitting, throwing in the towel? Welcome to Never Ever Give Up Hope featuring Carol Graham. She's an author, health coach, and motivational speaker. Backed into a corner multiple times in her life, Carol shares with you stories on how she overcame some of the toughest obstacles a person can go through in life, but refused to give up hope. Rather than admit defeat, an opportunity was presented, and it involves each and every one of you. Carol will feature spectacular guests who will share their messages of hope, encouragement, and their inspiration to prove why life's adversities only make you stronger. And now, welcoming the host of the show, here's Carol Graham.
Ryan is a beacon of hope for those still battling their demons, and he demonstrates that from the depths of despair, it is indeed possible to forge a life filled with purpose and joy. I am so excited to have Ryan Penley with us today on Never Ever Give Up Hope. Welcome, Ryan.
Well, thank you so much for having me, Carol. I know it's been a long time coming, and I'm
Right.
excited to have this conversation. Yeah, this is going to be great.
Good. All right. Well, you take it away and tell us your story. I gave you the intro. You can use that as your platform.
Got it. Okay, so maybe if we want to go back to where it began, of course, that's the idea. But people will sometimes say like, where did it start? And my mind goes back to like maybe not a bad experience, because I don't think a lot of times substance abuse starts off bad. It starts
Mm,
off quite intriguing and exciting. And mine started with having a couple of beers when I was much too young to consume them legally. And when I did, I found myself having more confidence to walk up and
mm,
talk to
mm.
girls at a party. Boom. I was
Right.
I was like, this is outstanding, and I'm young, so I wake up, no hangover, no consequences, no job to be late for. And so I was off to the races as a young new um, alcoholic and addict in the making.
Wow.
And so it didn't seem troublesome until much later. I was what you would consider a functional addict and alcoholic.
Mm,
I but because of my intrigue and because of the levels of excitement and how much I enjoyed the process, I went to the belly of the beast. I went to where basically anybody would go if they really
hmm
want to take their alcohol and drugs to the next level. I moved to Las Vegas, and
Oh
so
my
I go to La,
goodness. Okay.
I go I go to Las Vegas, and I'm at the time I'm 22 years old, and well I was 21 when I moved, so it was like right at the cusp, and I get there, and again, not I didn't just show up and start a cocaine problem, and waste all my money on prostitution. It was like it was a slow burn. I was doing well at first, and I was making good money, and I was traveling and enjoying myself in many healthy endeavors. in addition to this substance abuse kind of lurking and growing in
Hmm.
like kind of the shadows, if you will, it was there almost the entire time. It just wasn't and hadn't become a problem. And then the drug addiction really solidified itself when I broke my leg, and I was prescribed enough pills to kill a rhinoceros. It was
Oh,
like it was copious amounts, like right out the gate. So this is like right around like 2008. And I would say that's a solid argument for like the center of the opioid epidemic here in the United States. And so um, I walk in a doctor's office. I've got some metal in my leg. He gives me like 220 painkillers a month, and like very strong painkillers, by the way.
wow.
And many people in my circle, my closest sphere of friends and family, there's people that were the closest to me and that were around during this time. They will say that like that was a major turning point. Like they almost saw it in my eyes that like now I
Huh.
had gone to like another level. And I believe that that's a rather accurate statement. And what developed was a very serious pill addiction that conjoined with my alcohol consumption. Again, though, the wheels didn't necessarily like actually, they didn't, the wagon was still kind of wobbling down the road, if you will. So like I found myself fired from my job. I was stealing to afford the pills, and because it wasn't enough, that 220 pills, I needed more than that. You know, I was instantaneously an addict, so I started carrying those addict behaviors, and it's never enough
Was it
when you're
street
truly
was it street drugs or prescribed at this point still?
right. So that's an excellent question, Carol. The pills were prescribed to me. Um, and so, but it wasn't enough, even though it was like, I mean, an astronomical
Hmm.
amount of drugs going into my body. I still found myself not having enough. And the narrative that goes along with that, and anybody that's familiar with addiction, it's like I would I would come up with a story of how I had lost some, or
Right.
so and so stole them, or I dropped them, and I'm missing these pills. There's always a reason to get more because I
Hmm.
needed
Hmm.
more. I was an addict and I never had enough. So I was in like a perpetual state of trying to attain more. And but then it came a time when I wasn't able to get the prescription any longer, and it was over. Like there was no way,
Hmm.
absolutely no way for me to afford paying for all of those pills on the street. And so I ended up getting out of Las Vegas. I moved to Colorado, and there's so many people that will say that they tried to change their location to solve their
Interesting.
addiction.
Hmm.
And it makes sense. You're like,
Hmm.
oh,
Hmm.
I know. It's that person's fault, and this happens to me over here. And if I was just far away from all of this, I would be better. And so, it's a common story that people think like, oh, this is the solution. Here we go. Like this, it all makes sense. As soon as I move away, I'll be right as rain. And so, I did that. I moved to Colorado and thought, this is it. This is going to turn everything around. Well, one element of that story that I forgot to take into account is that I was bringing me with me. I brought me along for the
Right.
journey.
Right. Good point.
And me, I'm an addict. So I thought like, oh, I left everything behind except for the addict. So what did I do? I got right to finding more, uh another party lifestyle, another source of different drugs. Like, granted, the pills were no longer accessible, so I just kind of went to like, I guess, other other forms of the party, so it was like more of cocaine
Right.
and alcohol. And I at that juncture in my life, I started really doing a number on myself biologically. My body was starting to break down. Um, because like as I started the story, I was young and I was impervious to I was invincible, and
Right.
here I
Right.
am at this point in the story. I'm hitting the early 30s, and all of a sudden, anybody
Right.
anybody
Right.
that's got a few years, it's like you're not invincible, and you're getting more susceptible to things like hardcore drugs and a lot of alcohol. So I developed diabetes in Colorado, and I was not treating it, like not even a little bit. So I was ignoring it, to be honest, and I found myself in a coma. I ended up in a coma in Colorado, and this is like where everybody thinks, oh, that's it. That's when you turned it all around. You were basically dead, and that's when you did it. It's like, no, not even close. I found
Wow.
I just my family kind of scooped me up uh, in Colorado, got me back here to Florida, and then I deemed the bottom that I was at not really the bottom of, not rock bottom, but I
Right.
figured,
Right.
I still had the shovel in my hand, and maybe there's a basement to this thing, so I kept going. And that's where, as you had mentioned, my mother, who she's an addict, an alcoholic, she's actively in addiction. I pray for her. I
Oh.
pray for her, and I would, you know, it's sad, but at the time, if you got the two of us together in active addiction, bad news. It was bad news. She did send me to jail. The accusations were of murder. Now, I don't think I actually did any of the things she had said, but I
Hmm.
also wasn't in a position to defend myself
Hmm.
against accusations. And the reason why I say this is not to like clear my own name, but she had accused my stepfather, my biological father, her mother, several people of of like head wounds,
Mm. Okay.
and so right, and I'm not I'm not shedding the responsibility, because like I said, we were both under the influence, and there was definitely a confrontation. It just, I don't know the details of it, and
Hmm.
I would, I'd like to believe that I wasn't trying to cut her head off, but she wrote that down. So, true or
Goodness.
not,
Yeah.
tough thing to read. And so things continue to unravel here in Florida. Then it's just like a lot of hard battling, from that point on. I it got messier before it got better. That is for certain.
And when was the wake up call?
Right. And then that's the $1 million question. And to this day, as many times as I've been asked, I don't have a definitive point in time. I think it was just there was no more denial. Like if you classically want to put things into
Okay.
perspective, right? That's out the window. I'm looking around. It's very, very clear. you know, it's not going well, right? Like I knew that, and I knew it was because of drugs and alcohol. Now at this point, I wasn't able to get drugs financially, right? So it was
I
almost
was wondering
all.
if you were working or how you could afford it.
It was at this particular point, I was you know looking. I would ask for $10 for lunch or something from a friend, and I would just go buy the cheapest
Hmm.
alcohol possible,
Hmm.
that kind of thing. I was just kind of scrounging pennies to make that happen. And which, by the way, alcohol, if you've got a problem, it's the cheapest thing that you can really find to really
Hmm.
to do a number on your mind and body. And so that it's like, okay, so when did it turn around? Well, I found myself what you call Baker acted here in Florida. It's called a Baker Act, and if you're deemed a threat to yourself or others, they hold you. They don't arrest you. You're not arrested, but they put you into a 72-hour hold in like a mental health hospital. So
Hmm.
this happened to me. I want to say between 12 and 15 times.
Oh
I've
my
never
word.
actually I've never actually uh, I guess I could find records, but I don't know the specific number. But I do know this: every time I went in, I I got a little bit closer to commitment to sobriety.
Huh.
72 hours is enough to gain like a little bit of clarity.
Okay.
It's not enough to really get clean. It's not a full blown rehab, that's for sure. But at first, I was like, oh, I can't wait to get out of here because I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing. And then as time had gone on, it was like, oh man, I know what's going to happen when I get out of here. It's not pretty. And then it got to where I was like begging them, like, don't kick me out of here. I'm just going to be back,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
so eventually I came up with a plan. And in that plan, I I chose to implement accountability. I also chose to call on my cousin, who I had burned her already. I had already lived with her and kind of screwed it up. You know, I had failed living with her sober, and so but I reached out again and said, hey, listen, you know, I've got a plan this time, and I got a breathalyzer, and I gave her the breathalyzer. I said, you know, I come back from at this time I had a job. I said when I come back from work, you know, I'll blow into this. If I blow hot, I'm out, and that's the deal. And then we also put into the deal that I would go to AA and I would get therapy. And so I put together some things to like I said, hold me accountable, and then also help me work toward solidifying sobriety. And so it was a lot of work. It was a lot of, uh, a person might draw a line in the sand, but that doesn't mean you don't like stumble over the line. And you relapse and you go through, you I love the biblical phrase that you fall down 7 times, you get up eight. And it's because, uh, you know, you might continue to fall down, but all you have to do is get up one last time. And so whatever that number is, seven, eight, 100, 200, whatever it is, if you just got to get up for the last time once, and then it's there.
You had to make that decision. It was not made for you.
Oh yeah, yeah, for
You made
certain.
that decision.
So, well, that's what I was saying about drawing the line in the sand. There's plenty of people that make that decision, and it's not as if the decision is empty. The decision might be very real. However, um, the commitment may not be there, or maybe they don't have the tools. And when I say tools, I mean like accountability. Like I built the accountability into the last plan there, and for me that was imperative. Because I would decide I don't want to drink any longer. I would make that decision, and I was
Mm.
committed to it, but I lacked some other elements, and that included like accountability,
Okay.
a bit of support, and so you know, I feel like everybody's unique requirements for actually making recovery stick are different,
Good
but
point.
you wouldn't know until you probably won't figure that out until you try a bunch and you fail a bunch. And so like I had said, that is outlined in that verse, fall down 7 times, get up eight. And it's because uh, though all those times you fell, if you're doing it right, you're learning from each one of them. Like,
Right.
okay,
Right.
like I know what happens when I go down that street. There's a liquor store there, and I'm gonna go in there. And so I'm not going down that road. I'm gonna go down this other way.
Mhm.
That's just a
Mhm.
fictitious decision, but like, you start to learn each time you fall, ideally, right? And then eventually you figure it out, that unique blend of what you need.
I appreciate you sharing. that part of your story. I know sometimes it dredges up old memories as well. And I appreciate you being honest with us, and I thank you for that. We're going to take a 15-second break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about what you are doing now to help others and also your book. I love the title, Man Up, Sober Up. We'll be right back.
Carol Graham would like to show you the path from misery to miraculous triumph in her fast paced memoir, Battered Hope. She relates her determination to succeed as someone who experienced one horrendous nightmare after another: gang raped and left for dead, loss of a child, husband falsely imprisoned, and cancer. Nothing could break her tenacity or faith. No matter what you face, heartache, loss, suffering, or injustice, Carol will illustrate how she became a victor the same way you can. The secret is to never, ever give up hope. Order your copy at Amazon or batteredhope.blogspot.com.
Ryan Penley has been sharing his story of addiction with us today. I know that there are many people in this audience who are relating, both from their past experiences, possibly from people in their family, or even what they may be going through right now. And we're going to switch gears a little bit and we're going to the upside of his story and share, first of all, his book called, and I love this title, Ryan, Man Up, Sober Up. Take it away.
Yeah, so I wrote this book because I believe in my heart that if we, as humans, right, as people, if we've found some success with difficult problems in the world, it's our responsibility. It's our due diligence to share, like what we've learned, or or the
Mm-hmm.
solution that we found. And now I doing that, I'm only hoping that it helps some people. It's obviously not the end all be all solution for every person who has a problem with substance abuse or addiction. Um, However, it's a lot of my stories from the rock bottom, in addition to different methods and ways that I got myself out of that, right? And so I believe, like I said, I believe that it's my responsibility to share it. And so that came first, was the desire to help. I'm like, well, okay,
Mm.
this can't just go in vain,
Right, right.
this with and as I was gaining traction in my recovery, there was plenty of people, and it would kind of like plant little seeds, like, oh, you're here for a reason. I would hear stuff like that. I
Mm-hmm,
said,
mm-hmm.
oh my gosh, like, look at what you've overcome. There must be a reason behind it. And then I started to think, okay, well, what could that reason be? And what better reason can there be than to help people in situations that I'm familiar with? And those situations are awful. Being in those
Mm-hmm.
situations are 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 incredibly difficult. And so I thought to myself, well, what's the best way to get this message out? And writing a book can take guts, for certain. So
Right.
I had to find that first, was the
Uh-huh.
guts to write it. And then I got to work, and I
Let me,
found, once I.
Ryan, let me just stop you there for a second. I'm sorry for interrupting, but you just made a point there about it taking. I'd like you to expound on that a little bit because you didn't give up. I assume you didn't give up and you
Mhm.
pursued it. So, what was the factor that kept you going? Because it's not an easy thing. That might help somebody else.
Right. And so, well, if you notice, the way that I went about, and it's just the reality, it's exactly how it unfolded, is that I started with the why. And I just, it just naturally, it just fell into place. And so, because I had that before I had the idea of writing a book, I had, I had the desire, or I was compelled to share solutions and help. So it was like, sometimes I think that people, if they don't have the why, and they do it backwards and like, oh, I want to write a book. That sounds cool. And oh, well, why would I want to do that? And then it's tougher to go about it that way. Now, I'm not saying it can't be done, and I'm not saying that that it's not how some books are done, but like I feel very strongly, and an example comes to mind, a man's search for meaning, um, about, and gosh, I can't remember the author's name, but what he was in Nazi Germany, and he was writing a book before he became a prisoner in like Auschwitz. He had, while he's on the verge of death, the entire time he had the reason for his why of surviving that camp. And I know this is a very extreme case, right, which is why
That's
he's such a
okay.
powerful author, is that his why was there. He's like, why do I need to survive this uh, Nazi camp? Because I have to finish my book. So maybe he had the book before he had the why, but that's a very extreme case. And so he ended up getting out and writing that book. And please, somebody Google that and figure out that author's name, because he's absolutely historically amazing. But with me, I had the why first, and that's how it unfolded for me, and that's what made the book process and the difficulty that came with it, and it made it possible for me to endure the process and make it happen. Is because I thought to myself, okay, I made it through this. Why did I make it through this very hard part of my life? Maybe it's because I should share with people that are sharing the same uh, circumstances. And then it was like, oh, I know how I'll do it. I'll write this book. So then it made it easier to write the book because I already had the why built into me.
The title of your book, Man Up, Sober Up, I realize is a challenge to any when people see that title, and they know somebody they want to give the book to, or maybe they're dealing with the situation themselves. Is man up almost an insult to somebody? Like you're not man enough to stop? Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I considered that when I was coming up with the title. And originally the title was I well let me digress here.
Sure.
When I was in men's programs, and I was reading a lot. Obviously there was no TV, there was limited media and that type of thing, so that there was a good amount of time to read. I found that the space of writing for addiction recovery is filled with like stellar female authors. They pretty much own like the top spots as far as books go, and like as far as bestsellers and that type of thing. And I thought, man, there's not a male focused book out there.
Okay.
Ironically,
Hmm.
ironically, that's not what ended up happening. I ended up having so many women read the book and tell me how good it was. It was and also after like the finished product came out, and I realized, like, I originally started to that I wanted to focus on men. It didn't really unfold that way, and it didn't land on the audience that way. People didn't take it. I thought for sure it was, you know, wholeheartedly focused on men, and like you had said, it was almost a confrontational, like, hey, wake up, get it together kind
Hmm.
of a thing. And it's just not how it landed on the audience. I have like an outrageously large audience that's women, and a lot of readers that are women, and a lot of praise. And so it's kind of funny how I kind of started with the title to intending for it to have one effect, and it just didn't work out like that. So, but in the end, it does grab some attention, I think, in a lot of cases. And usually if it's I'd like to believe that if say somebody heard it and said man up, sober up, and they took that as a challenge, then
Yes, yes.
maybe they feel like they they have something to be challenged about, if that makes sense. Like
Absolutely.
internally, there's an inadequacy. And if there's an inadequacy, you're more likely to feel threatened, and you're more likely to feel challenged when you are internally feeling inadequate. So, if it has that effect, uh, it's, good. But, again, I don't think any of it really uh, was, it didn't end up being as I intended, to be honest.
I appreciate that because I thought possibly, somebody in the audience or a few people, whatever, might have that question. So I'm glad that you clarified that, and I thank you for that. So tell us about Sober to Super.
Right. Sober to Super is my new course that I'm offering through my website, and it's a compilation of videos by myself, uh, with they outline the Sober to Super system, and the system that I have now, I've been polishing as I've applied it in my life. It really can take somebody to another level after they've gained some traction in sobriety. And I'll tell you why I started creating this program is because once I got a little breathing room in sobriety, I, I found myself wondering if that was it. I was like, okay, I'm like a year sober, and that was, at first, while you're in the trenches, and then I'll be very clear about that. The program isn't necessarily to get somebody sober when they're scratching and clawing like in the trenches. I understand that portion of the recovery journey. The program isn't necessarily for them. And, I think an asterisk to add to that is like, I'm not a doctor, and I'm not a therapist. And so, um, when it comes to those people, and there have been some people that have reached out to me, and they're in dire needs. And I'll tell them, you need professional help. You need a rehab. You need to go, like, some people that might be suicidal, things like that. I'm not fit. I don't have the credentials to like really help there. But so back to the program, I help, and it's intended to help people that have gotten a bit of traction in sobriety, and they're thinking, well, wait a second, if I got sober, what else can I do? What
Mm,
other what other
right.
levels can I reach? Can I get another career? Can I start a family? Can I reach a certain level of income? Can I get in the best shape of my life? And I'm saying these things very specifically because that's what I've done. I just
Mm.
had a 3 month old, my boy, my firstborn son. He's 3 months old. I got
Aw.
married about, like, well, let's see, I got married like less than a year ago. so like I started, like, once I got sober, I was like, okay, well, this is cool, and I'm sober, but, well, now what is there?
Mm,
Maybe there's
mhm.
another level. Maybe I can have a family, because at one point I didn't think that was even possible. I didn't think I could have a successful solopreneur source of income. I didn't think that I'd be able to write a book. I didn't think so. It was like, okay, well, there's like, I went, if I asked myself that question, well, I'm sober. Well, now what? I asked myself that a lot. So it was like, okay, I want to help those people. I want to say, okay, now that you're sober, guess what we're going to do? We're going to kick it to high gear. And so the Sober to Super program is just that. It's getting, now that you're sober, let's get super. We're gonna kick this thing up a notch, and then that's the whole point of this system that I'm rolling out.
I love that. You're sober. Now what? There's your next book.
Right? Yeah. Well,
All
yeah.
right. Thank you so much for sharing all of these things you have shared with us today. Is there anything in summary that you would like to add?
I would like to add that, for people that have been hit by such a very tricky and very difficult and very tragic circumstance as substance abuse, you've got to know, first of all, that it's possible. And I'd like to put myself in the crowd that shows that it is possible. And then if you have that, which is imperative, then you just gotta just never quit. Don't give up on the ones you love, and don't give up on yourself.
Well stated. Thank you. And is your program available yet, or where can people contact you?
So you can go to my website, ryanpenley.org.
Okay. Thank you, Ryan. I appreciate these stories that are so uplifting, and even for someone who has never, and I'm sure there are many people in the audience like that, including myself, who've never had an addictive problem, we still know people who have. And that's all part of not only what we're doing on this show, but your desire and your passion to help others. We become passionate in that, and that comes through loud and clear. And for that, I thank you. Your desire is to help somebody else. And I know because so many authors have said this, if I can help but one. And I'm sure you have said the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
That
That is
one,
true.
and that mushrooms, and that builds and that grows, and that one can turn into a million, etc. So thank you for sharing your story with us, and I look forward to the audience's comments. Please comment and share this on all your channels. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Never Ever Give Up Hope, featuring Carol Graham. Did you know that most people succeed because they are determined to? Quitting was never an option. Carol loves your comments and will respond to each one. So please subscribe and review this podcast. A rating of 5 stars would be outstanding and appreciated. Remember, if you are still here, there is always hope.